3 stories. A death, a leap of faith, and a murder. Now they all share one thing in common, which is that they were never in control of their own actions. And the contents within this video will be highly disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. It was the dead of night. The woman was just sleeping peacefully in her room when suddenly she got up, but she wasn't going for a glass of water. She was going for the window that was left wide open. She climbed up and stood on the edge. She took a moment to just breathe and jumped. When she landed, onlookers rushed to call an ambulance. But when she woke up, she had no idea how she even got there or what happened. People had their theories of what may have happened. Some question the supernatural, but the truth may be even harder to believe. Her name was Rachel Ward, and ever since birth, she's had sleeping issues. And when her parents went to go have it checked out, they were told everything would be fine. And eventually, her sleeping issues went away. And so years went by, and Rachel's life was completely normal. But one night, she was laying in her room, sleeping, when suddenly, her body would have rose up, but she would have been fully asleep, and she would begin walking forward to the window. And when she got out, she would continue walking forward, but there would have been nowhere for her to go. And when she landed, she would briefly call for help, but oddly enough, she fell back asleep. And when someone found her, they called 911. But doctors were amazed when they found that there were no broken bones on her body. It was an absolute miracle. But moments later, the woman woke up and was terrified to find that she was now in the hospital, saying that she had no recollection of how she got there. And then fell back asleep. And when she woke up this time, she had no memory of anything. Not the fall, calling for help, or waking up in the hospital. Nothing. But regardless, before Rachel goes to sleep now, she makes sure to lock her windows, just in case. The man was just sleeping, when suddenly, he got up and just started walking. But it was almost as if he was in a trance. And when he got to the front door, he opened it and just began walking. Now this was extremely odd, because not only was it snowing outside, but temperatures were below freezing, and he had barely any clothing on. And if he continued, he could easily catch hypothermia. And it wasn't like he was going in any particular direction. He just kept walking straight. And unfortunately, there was nobody around that could stop him from doing this. And to this day, investigators are still puzzled on what happened that night. But for us to be able to understand this case a little more, we need to understand what hypothermia actually does to the body. Now there are 3 stages of hypothermia, but for this video, we'll just be focusing on the last one, which is called severe hypothermia. Now when you're extremely cold, your body works overtime to try to produce heat, but eventually, even your brain will become cold. And when this happens, your brain will malfunction, and it can cause you to feel extreme warmth, even when you feel extremely cold. And you may even feel the urge to strip down. And now, we need to know who this man even is. So his name is Timothy Brueggeman, and in 2009, he was a 51-year-old electrician living in Wisconsin. Now a friend of Timothy would later state that it wasn't uncommon for them to have a few beers after work. And we also know that he was suffering from insomnia, which basically meant that he had a hard time sleeping at night. And in some severe cases of insomnia, a person can go 5 days or more without any proper rest, meaning the brain never got a chance to reset itself, and this can lead to hallucinations. Now if we go back a year before the accident, we'll find that Timothy went to a doctor for his sleeping disorder and was prescribed Ambien. And while rare, Ambien is linked in many cases of sleepwalking. But what happened next is extremely unsettling. He took the pill and was out like a light. But a little while later, something strange happened. His body rose up while he was still sleeping, and he began walking. And when he got through the front door, he didn't walk out to his car. And when he got inside, he turned the car on, put it in drive, and hit the accelerator. And when he was asked what happened, he said he had no idea. After the accident, his mother begged him to never take Ambien again, because she believed that this was the cause of his sleepwalking. And he listened, but his sleeping issues never went away. And after a while, he just couldn't take it anymore. It was one of the coldest nights of the year, and Timothy just wanted some rest. So he took the pill, and moments later, he had passed out. But when he got up this time, it would prove fatal. But the main question is, how did he stay asleep through this extreme cold? And my answer is both devastating and terrifying. So he took the pill, but he mixed it with beer, and this created a reaction within his body that is unpredictable. And when he was outside walking, even if he would have felt cold, he wouldn't have been able to move his body because of the medication that he took, keeping him asleep. And when he reached a severe stage of hypothermia, he took his shirt off, and a little while later, his body shut down, and he collapsed forward. The next morning, he was reported missing, and deputies followed his tracks that would reveal that he had traveled over 190 yards from his home. And this is the last known image of Timothy, but it's unclear if he was alive or deceased. In 1887, Andre Monet was a married man living in Paris, France. He and his wife had traveled to La Havre for a brief vacation, but when they got there, it was already late, so they didn't really get to do much. And when they checked into their hotel room, Andre couldn't sleep, so he snuck out of bed and went out to the beach. He just wanted to look at the waves and put his feet in the sand and just take in the beautiful scenery. When he gets to the beach, he had this moment of pure bliss. It was just perfect. The waves, the sounds, everything. And a little while later, he had noticed a person approaching him, and he didn't think anything of it. But when those footsteps stopped, Andrew looked up and noticed the person was not far away, but not too close, just next to him. In an effort to try to be friendly, he just said, "Aren't the waves just beautiful?" And as he says this, he looks off to admire them. But to his horror, when he looked back at this unknown man, he found himself staring down the barrel of a gun. But before he could react, it was already too late. Now, what Andre and his wife didn't know before traveling to La Havre is that there had actually been a string of murders that had occurred in this area. 6 sellers had been found dead, and to help solve this case, they had called in a master detective. I mean, this guy was the best of the best. He had solved many cases to this point, and was a relentless worker. And it wasn't uncommon for him to go over 24 hours without sleep, because he was just too busy working. So when he arrived, he immediately got to work. But a few days later, the killer struck again, this time at the beach. So the master detective, his name was Rob, and in 1887, he was 35 years old. But this morning was a little odd. There were a couple things about his room that were just off, and it just kind of shook him up. But when he got the call telling him to go to the beach because the killer had struck again, he threw on his shoes and off he went. So when he got there, he pretty much solved the case instantly. And he did it just by looking at the footprints in the sand and examining the bullet that was used. And when he was sure he knew what happened, he simply said, "I think I know what happened, but I need to go back to my hotel room to confirm my suspicion." Now this was kind of odd, but they didn't question him. And when Rob got to his hotel room, he was in a full-on panic, sweating, and his heart racing. Now for us to understand why Rob is panicking right now, we have to go back 30 years earlier to when Rob would have been 5 years old. Now when Rob was 5 years old, he got this terrible infection in his big toe, and the pain would have been excruciating. And to make sure that the infection wouldn't spread, they had to amputate it. Now going back to present day, Rob had managed to calm himself down. He was now just staring at his gun that was laying on the bed in front of him. And after some time, he knew he had to check it out. And what he saw was unfortunate. He just went to the police station to turn himself in. That morning, when he was in his hotel room and there was those couple of things that were just off. One of those things was that his socks already had sand in them. And this was weird because they were a brand new pair, and when he put them on, he didn't go near any sand. And the second thing that was weird is that his gun was already holstered at his hip. Now this was weird because he never slept like that. He always slept with his gun in the suitcase. And when he went out to investigate the murder, he had recognized that the bullet was fired from a German Luger pistol, which was commonly used amongst criminals and officers. Now there was no sign of struggle. It was almost as if the killer walked to the beach, shot the man, and walked off. But looking further into the prints, he had noticed that the killer wasn't wearing shoes, nor was he barefoot. He was wearing socks. And more importantly, he was able to confirm that the killer was missing his big toe. And so when he went to his hotel room to confirm his suspicions, he checked his gun. And what he found is that he was missing one bullet. And the following is a rough reconstruction of what is assumed to have happened that night. Rob would have been exhausted from his extreme work schedule, and while he was sleeping, his body would have got up, holstered his pistol, and walked out to the beach, where he would have ran into Andre. Now Andre must have not been looking at his attacker, and he also didn't feel that he was in any danger, which would explain why there was no sign of struggle. The killer fired one shot and walked off. He didn't run, he just walked. When he got to his hotel room, he went to sleep. Now I didn't say his full name because this is one of the more infamous sleepwalking cases, but his full name is Robert Ledru. And as for what happened to him, he wasn't sent to a prison. Instead, he was forced to live alone on a farm outside of Paris until his eventual death in 1937. Now all of these stories had one thing in common, which was sleepwalking, and I just so happen to have a sleepwalking video right here.